The phone was still warm in my hand when I heard the deadbolt turn from the inside. Not the outside. The inside. I stood on my own daughter's porch, in the rain, holding a grocery bag with her favorite lemon cake in it, and I listened to the lock click shut like a period at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished reading. Through the door, muffled, I heard my son-in-law's voice, low and satisfied, talking to someone I couldn't see. She'll sign it. Old women always sign when they're scared of being alone. I didn't knock again. I just stood there in the rain, water running down the collar of my coat, and I said quietly, to no one, to the door, to myself. Not scared. Just done pretending I don't have a lawyer. My name is Eleanor Voss. I'm 67 years old, and for 31 years I built something out of nothing. In 1994, with $4,200 in savings and a folding table at a farmer's market, I started a small preserves company, jams, pickles, chutneys, out of my kitchen in Ohio. By the time I sold my stake in 2019, Voss and Daughter Provisions was doing $6.3 million a year in regional grocery distribution, and I walked away with a payout of $2.85 million after taxes. I named the company and daughter because I had one, Claire. I also have a son, Marcus, 4 years younger, an accountant who married a woman named Priya 11 years ago. For most of my life, my family was the thing I was proudest of, prouder than the company, prouder than the money. Which is exactly why what happened over the 18 months I'm about to tell you nearly broke something in me that 31 years of hard work never touched. This is the story of how my own children tried to have me declared incompetent to get control of $2.85 million, and how I let them think it was working, right up until the moment it wasn't. It started on a Tuesday in March, 8 months after my husband Robert died of a heart attack at 71. I'd gone to Claire's house to drop off soup. She'd mentioned she was tired, run down, and I still remembered how to be a mother even after 40 years of practice. The side door was unlocked, the one that leads into the mudroom off the kitchen, and I let myself in the way I always had. I heard laughter before I saw them. Claire, in the silk robe I'd bought her for her 40th birthday, sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of Sancerre in her hand at 11 in the morning. Across from her, Marcus, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, and beside him, a man I didn't recognize in a gray suit with a leather portfolio open on the counter. She's not going to notice, Marcus was saying, swirling his coffee. Dad handled everything financial. She thinks a 401k is a zip code. Claire laughed, a real laugh, easy, unguarded, the kind she used to give me. She still asks Alexa what year it is, she said. I love her, but she's not exactly sharp anymore. Grief's aged her 10 years. The man in the suit, I'd learn later his name was Todd Ashworth, an elder law attorney with a very specific specialty, slid a folder across the counter. If we can document a pattern of cognitive decline over the next few months, a limited conservatorship over the investment accounts becomes very achievable. Judges don't like family conflict. They like clean paperwork. I stood in the mudroom, soup going cold in my hands, and I did not walk in. I turned around, quietly let myself out the way I'd come, and drove to a diner 4 miles away, where I sat in a booth and did not cry. I ordered coffee. I thought about my husband. And then I thought, very clearly, the way you think when something in you finally stops being soft. Fine. Let's document a pattern. I started small. I began checking the mailbox before Marcus, who'd taken to helping with my mail since Dad passed, could get to it first. Within 2 weeks, I found what I was looking for. A letter from Thornfield Wealth Management, addressed to me, already opened. Inside was a request for a voluntary account review, with a signature at the bottom that was supposed to be mine. It wasn't. The E in Eleanor curled the wrong way. I'd signed my name over 60,000 times in 31 years of business. I know my own hand. I photographed it. I said nothing. At my next physical, my longtime doctor, Dr. Halvorsen, mentioned, carefully, kindly, that my son had called the office twice asking about any signs of memory concerns and had asked, specifically, whether a formal cognitive evaluation could be scheduled for peace of mind. I told Dr. Halvorsen I'd be happy to take any test she wanted. I scored a 29 out of 30 on the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. I asked her to keep a certified copy on file, dated, notarized. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "Eleanor, is everything all right at home?" "It will be," I told her. I confronted Marcus directly about the mail. Calm, direct. I set the misspelled signature letter on his kitchen table. He barely blinked. "Mom, that's a standard portfolio rebalancing disclosure. Thornfield sends those to every account holder over 65 as a compliance formality. Dad's estate attorney recommended it before he passed. Actually, it's just fiduciary due diligence." It was a good lie. Specific, jargon-heavy, delivered without a flicker of hesitation. The kind of lie a man tells when he's told it to himself first. I nodded slowly. "Oh, that makes sense. I don't understand all that finance stuff anyway." I watched something in his shoulders relax. 3 weeks later, I forgot my reading glasses at Claire's after Sunday dinner and came back for them, letting myself in quietly through the front this time. I heard them in the den. "She bought it," Marcus said. "Ate it right up. I don't understand all that finance stuff." He did an impression of my voice. Higher, wavering, nothing like me. Claire laughed. "Todd says if we get 2 more doctor's notes and the neighbor to say she left the stove on again, we're basically there. 6 more months, tops." I never left the stove on. I said out loud to my empty car in the driveway, once I was back in it. That was a story Marcus told the neighbor. That was the beat that cracked it open. If Marcus was inventing incidents, there had to be a paper trail of the invention, texts, emails, something. I hired someone I trusted completely, not to hack anything, but a licensed private investigator, Ruth Calloway, to do a fully legal financial and public records background check on Todd Ashworth. What came back stopped me cold. Todd Ashworth had been sanctioned by the Ohio State Bar Association 4 years earlier for a nearly identical scheme, helping adult children pursue conservatorship petitions against parents with liquid assets over $1 million, then taking a case management fee of 8% of the estate once conservatorship was granted. He'd lost his standing to practice in 2 counties. He'd simply moved counties and rebuilt. My children weren't just trying to take my money. They were paying a man with a documented history of doing this to other families to help them do it to me. I made a decision that week, sitting alone in the kitchen where I'd built a $6.3 million company on a folding table dream. I was going to let them win. On the surface, I started leaving my reading glasses on top of my head and asking where they were. I began repeating small questions I already knew the answer to. Now, is the pharmacy open Sundays? In front of Marcus, watching him make a mental note every time. I stopped balancing my own checkbook in front of anyone. I let Claire help me set up online banking, which meant she now had my username, and I made sure she saw me struggle to remember the password twice before finally getting it. I bought a cane I didn't need and used it exactly once a week, always where they'd notice. A woman who built a company from a folding table doesn't forget how contracts work. But a woman who wants to see exactly how far her children will go has to be willing to hand them the rope and watch what they tie. Every performance had a purpose. Every soft, confused smile was a door I was holding open so they'd walk through it and show me exactly what was on the other side. I met with an elder law attorney of my own, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Patricia Kimalu, referred by Ruth Calloway, someone with zero connection to Todd Ashworth or anyone in his orbit. Together we built the trap. First, I let it slip to Claire, over lunch, that I was thinking of finally simplifying my finances and might sign whatever paperwork made things easier, since I trusted her and Marcus completely. I said it while fumbling with my reading glasses. Second, Patricia drafted a document, real, notarized, filed quietly with the county, that did the opposite of what they thought. It named an independent, professional fiduciary trustee, not Marcus, not Claire, over my estate in the event of incapacity, and it explicitly documented, with Dr. Halvorson's cognitive assessment attached, that I was of fully sound mind as of that date. Any future conservatorship claim would have to overcome a dated, notarized contradiction. Third, the bait. I told Marcus, in a phone call I knew he'd want to discuss with Claire and Todd afterward, that I'd be signing the new account paperwork at a family dinner I was hosting the following Saturday, and that I wanted everyone there. It feels right to do it as a family. Then I placed a small voice recorder, the kind used for lectures, inside a ceramic sugar bowl that had sat on my dining table for 20 years. Everyone in my family knew that sugar bowl. No one had ever once looked inside it. I told my husband's old business partner, Frank, who'd become something like a brother to me, what was happening. He sat 2 streets away that Saturday with his phone on the table between us in a group text, ready. The week before the dinner, my own phone buzzed constantly. Claire texting Marcus, forwarding messages to me by accident that weren't accidents at all, each one confirming they thought the paperwork Saturday was real, was theirs, was already won. I read every text. I answered none of them the way they expected. I hosted the dinner on a Saturday in October. 12 people. Marcus, Priya, Claire, her husband David, Todd Ashworth. Invited by Claire as the family's estate advisor, Frank, Dr. Halvorson, whom I'd asked as a family friend, and Patricia and Kimalu, introduced simply as my accountant. Dinner went the way these dinners go. Wine. Small talk. Claire's hand resting a little too casually on the folder Todd had brought. Then Marcus raised his glass. To Mom, he said, smiling, for knowing when to let the people who love her take some of the weight off her shoulders. Todd slid the folder toward me. Whenever you're ready, Eleanor. Just a signature here, here, and here. I picked up my pen. I looked at the page, and then I set the pen down, gently, next to my water glass. Before I sign anything, I said, my voice level, quiet, the same voice I used to close 6-figure distribution deals. I want to ask a question. Todd, how many other families have you helped with paperwork like this? The table went still. I'm not sure what you mean, Todd said. I mean Ohio versus Ashworth, 2020. Sanctioned by the state bar. Suspended license in Franklin and Delaware counties. 8% case management fee on granted conservatorship. I reached into the sugar bowl and set the small recorder on the table, face up. I also mean the recording from 3 weeks ago, in Claire's den, where I heard both my children discuss inventing a stove incident and forging a signature on a Thornfield account letter. Marcus's face went the color of the tablecloth. Mom, you don't understand what you're. I understand perfectly, I said, still not raising my voice. I scored a 29 out of 30 on a cognitive assessment 6 weeks ago. Dr. Halvorson has the notarized copy. I also want everyone to know that as of last Tuesday, my entire estate is under an independent fiduciary trust, not either of you, with documentation that I was of fully sound mind at the time of filing. I picked up the folder Todd had slid toward me, and I tore it once, cleanly, down the middle, and set the 2 halves on either side of my water glass like bookends. Detective Reyes is a friend of Ruth Calloway's, who did the background work on Mr. Ashworth, I said. He's been made aware of the forged signature on a financial document, which is a felony in this state. He'll want to speak with all of you. Right on cue, my phone buzzed once on the table. A text from Frank. He's outside. There was a knock at the door 30 seconds later. Nobody at that table said a word. Todd Ashworth was arrested that night on an outstanding warrant tied to a separate elder fraud case in Delaware County. The forged Thornfield signature became a second, active investigation. He lost his law license entirely within 4 months and, according to public court filings, is now facing restitution claims from 3 other families. Marcus was charged with attempted forgery of a financial document. He avoided jail through a plea deal, but he lost his position at his accounting firm within 6 weeks. You cannot be a fiduciary professional with an open fraud charge involving your own mother. His marriage to Priya, who I later learned had known nothing about any of it, did not survive the scandal. She filed for divorce 4 months later, and I made sure, quietly, that she knew none of it was ever her doing. Claire lost something slower and, I think, harder, her reputation in a town where everyone eventually hears everything. She sent me one email, 3 weeks later, that said only, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know Todd told us this was normal, that everyone does this for aging parents. I know that's not an excuse. I did not reply. I made one act of grace, deliberately, publicly. Priya, blameless in all of it, had left her marriage with almost nothing and 2 kids to feed. I funded a small business loan for her, an old habit, a folding table kind of gift, to open the bakery she'd always talked about at Sunday dinners nobody else remembered she'd mentioned. I asked that my name never be attached to it. 6 weeks later, on a night with sleet coming down sideways, there was a knock at my door. Marcus stood on the porch without a coat. Without his car, Priya had it in the divorce, soaked through, holding nothing. "Mom," he said, "I have nowhere else to go. Just for tonight. Please." I looked at him for a long moment. I thought about the sugar bowl, the folded document, the misspelled E that wasn't mine. "I hope you find somewhere warm, Marcus," I said. "It won't be here." I closed the door. Not hard. Not a slam. Just firm. Final. The way you close a ledger on a number that's already been settled. Frank was in the kitchen when I turned around, pouring 2 cups of tea, the way he had most evenings since that October dinner. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm the best I've been in a year," I said, and I meant it. Here's what 31 years of building something out of nothing and 18 months of watching my own children try to take it from me taught me. Love doesn't get to skip accountability just because it shares your last name. Playing weak isn't the same as being weak. Sometimes it's the sharpest tool you have. And peace, real peace, is worth more than any relationship that only survives when you pretend not to notice what's being done to you. If someone in your life has ever mistaken your kindness for confusion, tell me in the comments. I want to hear how you handled it. If this story meant something to you, hit like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.